have courage enough to use the outhouse. There are only 2 gas stations in Cutthroat County, and both are in Basin Creek. That's not exactly true, I was later told. Roscoe Moss has a pump at Crimson Feather, a community of 4 trailers and a ranch far to the east of where owner Garland Foster has brought in wind turbines. At least when the Conoco truck driver, there's a refinery in Billings, you know, remembers to stop on the 1st of the month. Course, old Roscoe's prices are higher than a loan shark's interest rates, and his pump is slower than spring getting here. The speaker, a handsome man of slightly above average height, dark hair flecked with gray, and the darkest eyes I've ever seen, paused to sip coffee. Black. His 3rd cup since I'd been interviewing him, and appeared to be counting the other gas pumps. And most ranchers and mining companies have their own pumps, he continued, though some stopped after they had to dig up their old pumps and haul them away. EPA thing, if I remember right. His smile was disarming. But you're too young to remember leaded gasoline. He did not appear to be flirting, but he sure was charming. If you run out of gas, there's a pretty good chance someone will top you off with enough to get you to East Glacier, maybe as far as Cut Bank. The disarming man was John T. Drew, Cutthroat County Sheriff, one of those fellows who's lived here all their lives. Well, he politely corrected, if you don't count 4.5 years in Bozeman. He points to the Montana State University diploma, Criminal Justice, on the wall to the right of the window, overlooking the county courthouse grounds. Those 4.5 years might be the only period of time when any Drew male had not dined, slept, and worked in Cutthroat County since long before Cutthroat County was carved out of Chouteau County in 1891. I pointed out the first Maddox to set foot in Cutthroat County was a mountain man, perhaps 7, 8, 9 generations ago. Drew smiled and shrugged. I've never figured the math. Then nodded at the diploma. Math's why it took me an extra semester to get that sheepskin on the wall. Do people hide here? I asked. People escape here, he said, the smile still warm. Tourists come here to fly fish for cutthroat trout, or to pick up one of those T-shirts Maudie sells by the scores during peak season. The 397 folks who call this patch of heaven home live here because they love it, because this country's in their blood. The air's clean, the water's pure, and if you don't mind a whole lot of winter most years, it's a good place to call home. 60 years ago, Cutthroat County made national headlines for being the last of the Old West towns. The sprawling Maddox Ranch, now headed by Ashton Maddox, was likened to the Ponderosa of TV's Bonanza. The county sheriff then, John Drew's grandfather, was called a real Matt Dillon, the character played by James Arness in the long-running Western series Gunsmoke. Tourists from across the world flocked to Cutthroat County, not just to go trout fishing in America, but to see the wildest Wild West. A Montana state tourism guide raved about 4 guest ranches, 3 of which boasted to be real working ranches and a restored historic hotel. 2 stables offered guided horseback rides along the county's myriad peaks, valleys, and creeks. A plan was to turn part of the long-abandoned railroad tracks, originally laid in the 1890s, into an Old West tourism train, complete with a coal-powered locomotive and mock gunfights and train robberies. That boom lasted slightly less than a decade. A few years later, Cutthroat County, and especially Basin Creek, got statewide attention and a joke on The Tonight Show, though I have been unable to confirm it since there's no video on YouTube, as a speed trap. Drew laughed at that memory. Well, the town speed limit was 35, and my daddy did not like speeders. Maybe because his daddy preferred riding a horse than driving that Ford Galaxy. We have Ford Police Interceptor SUVs now, by the way.